Okay, on this problem, I'm just going to continue on with this video. This is part two. So what I notice here is that I want to use the graph of f of x equals the square root of x to obtain the graph of um, the square root of x minus 4. So let's just quickly plot, and I'm going to do this in red. F of x equals the square root of x. Okay, so that graph is going to look like this. All right, with just those specific points on it: 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, or 9, 3, 4, 2, and then 9, 3. Okay, and what I want to do is, since I'm manipulating my input and I'm subtracting from my input inside, this is going to shift right 4 units. So this is going to shift right 4 units. Okay, so I'm going to take each one of these points and move them over 4. Okay, and so 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot that point here. Move this other point 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot that there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot that there, and we can draw our graph going like that in the other direction. Okay, and that's how we'd graph that. All right, same thing. Use the graph of absolute value of x to obtain the graph of g of x equals absolute value of negative x. So in this original graph, we have our V-shaped graph, which is going to go up in this direction. Okay. All right, and then we're going to use that to graph g of x equals negative absolute value of x. And all this negative is going to do is it's going to flip over the x-axis, okay? And so I'm going to take this point here, and we're going to go down and flip this graph over the x-axis and to give us that graph, okay? So not too terrible. All right, let's go to the next page. Okay, so I'm going to use the graph of f of x equals the cube root of x to obtain the graph of h of x equals the cube root of negative x. So let's first graph the cube root of x, all right? And that's going to have the point 0, 0, 1, 1, negative 1, negative 1, the point 8, 2, and the point negative 8, negative 2. All right, so we've got this graph here. Okay, and so the what we're going to do is this is going to flip over the y-axis. Okay, so I'm going to keep some of the same points like 0, 0, but I'm going to flip all these points on the y-axis to generate our other graph. Okay, and that's how we get that. All right, so that's how we get those points. All right, let's take a look at this next one. We want to use the graph of absolute value of x, so it's our v graph here with a slope of 1 and negative 1 here, okay, to obtain the graph of g of x is equal to 2 times the absolute value of x. This is going to make this graph skinny, okay? And so what we're going to do, instead of having a slope of 1 like we had on this graph, this is going to give us a slope of 2. So I'm going to plot these points for slopes of 2. All right. And gives us that graph there. Okay. So just using these numbers and using these transformations to know what we're doing. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to do, and I kind of didn't leave too much room here for you, but what I want to do on this is take this graph of f of x, okay, and use these transformations to graph g of x and to graph h of x, okay? Now, what I'm going to do, let's talk about, first of all, let's do this. Let's just copy down the points that we have. The points that I've got here is going to be negative 2, comma 0. I've got the point 0, 3. I've got the point 2, 0. Got the point 4, negative 3, and then I've got the point 6, 0. Okay? And so what I have, on this first part here is I've got a g of x is equal to f of 2 of x. So this 2 is affecting the input. Okay? And what this is going to do is it's going to make the graph skinny. Okay? Make graph skinny. All right, but all it's going to do is make graph skinny by a factor of 1/2. Okay? So we have to do the opposite. If we're affecting the input with multiplication like this, okay, it's going to make the graph skinny, but we're going to do that by its reciprocal, okay? So what I'm going to do, because we are affecting that graph by 1/2, it's going to be skinny, I'm going to take each of our x values and divide them by 2, or multiply by 1/2. So this is going to give me the point -1, 0, okay? This is going to give me the point 0, 3. This is going to give me the point 1, 0. This is going to give me the point 2, -3. And then this is going to give me the point 3, 0. So all I did was take each of my x values and just divide them by 2 to get my new x values. Okay, so now I'm going to plot these points on this graph. So I've got the point -1, 0. All right, so -1, 0, 0, 3. Okay, 1, 0, 2, -3, and then 3, 0. All right, and what I have is just a very skinny version of the graph that we just had, okay? And that's what that did. So it just shrinks it in, okay, is what it does, all right? And so whatever, if we're doing this, if we've got this number in front of the x inside the function, then we want to do the opposite. So we're multiplying this by 2. Really, we're going to divide by 2. Okay. Now here, h of x is equal to f of 1/2 x. This 1/2 is going to make the graph fat. All right. So make the graph fat, and so we're going to multiply each x by 2. Okay, and so let's go in here and let's write these down. I'm going to write down these same points. -2, 0, 0, 3, 2, 0, 4, -3, and then 6, 0. All right, so we're going to multiply each of our x values by 2. So we're going to multiply by 2, multiply by 2, multiply by 2, multiply by 2, multiply by 2. All right, to get our new x value. So we're going to get -4, 0. We're going to get 0, 3. We're going to get 4, 0. We're going to get 8, -3. And then we're going to get 12, 0. All right, so we're going to go off the graph a little bit. That's okay. But let's go ahead and graph these. So we're going to do -4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 0, 3, 4, 0. Okay, and then we're going to do 8, -3, 1, 2, 3, and then 12, 0. All right, so we're going to get this graph like so, and that's going to stretch it out and make the graph fat. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So a little bit tricky on those, but let's go ahead and take a look at the next page. Now on this one, let's copy down those same points again. Okay, so those points are copied down. And what I want to do is use the function to then graph this function, okay? And so let's talk about what we're doing in this, okay? So what we're going to do is this +1 here means we're going to shift this graph left 1 unit. So we're going to subtract 1 from each x. Okay? Now, the -1/3 multiplier and the -2 constant over here is going to do something here. So what we're going to do, so for each y value, so for the y values, okay, I want to divide by -3 and then subtract 2. All right, and that's going to give us our new points. All right, so I'm using this whole rule to help us develop our new points. So let's do this. X values, subtract 1 from each. So this is going to give me -3. Let's just do that one first because that one's a little bit easier. Okay, so we're going to get -1 for this next point. All right, we're going to get +1 for this point. We're going to get 3 for that point, and then 5. Okay, so all I'm doing is taking my x values and subtracting 1 from each side. Okay, and that's where this +1 comes in. All right, now take the y values, divide by -3, and then subtract 2. So we're going to get this. We're going to get divide 0 by -3, which is just 0, and then subtract 2, which is -2. And then here, okay, we're going to divide 3 by -3, so -1, okay, and then -2, which gives us -3, okay? 0 divided by, this one's just going to give us -2 again. This one will just give us -2. This one will give us +1, and then subtract 2, which gives us -1. Okay, so if you want, I would pause that again to go through that, but all I'm doing for each of these y values is I'm dividing them by -3, and then I'm subtracting 2 from those. Okay, so let's go ahead and plot these new points. Now what we should notice is a couple different things. It should be a little bit skinnier, I think. Well, let's check. -3, -2. I got to graph it and see. -1, -3. Oh, I know what we did. We compressed it. We need a parenthesis around here. 1, -2. Okay. 3, -1. Okay, and then 5, -2. All right, so we get this graph here. Now, what we've noticed, what I've noticed, is that this graph has reflected over the x. Okay, reflected over x-axis. Okay, that's the first thing I've noticed. The second thing that I've noticed is that it's gotten fatter. Okay, and then it's been shifted left 1 unit, and then down 2. Okay, so that's what's happening to the graph. Quite a bit happened there, but that's just me taking these original points and then manipulating them based off of what the rules are to get my new points. All right, so let's do the same thing for this. Now, what I want to do is use the graph of x squared to graph this new graph. All right, so let's write out some of those points for x squared. I got 0, 0. I've got 1, 1. I've got in the point 2, 4. And then I've got the point -1, 1. And then I've got the point -2, 4. Okay, so let's think about what we are doing here. So if I have this rule here that says g of x is equal to 2 times x minus 1 squared plus 3, okay, this is going to shift right 1. This is going to go up 3. And this is going to make the graph skinny, okay? All right, so what I want to do here is I want to, for the x values, I want to add 1. For the y values, I multiply by 2 and then add 3. All right, so that's how I'm getting my new points. Okay, so here's what I want to do. From going from -2 to 4, I'm going to add 1, so I get -1. Let's just do the x values first. Okay, so we're going to get 0 here. I'm going to get 1. I'm going to get 2, and I'm going to get 3. Okay, and then for the y values, I'm going to multiply by 2 and then add 3. So take 4, multiply it by 2, and that's going to give me 8, and then add 3 is 11. Okay, take 1, multiply it by 2, which is 2, add 3, which is 7. Okay. And then 0 multiplied by 2 is 0. Add 3 is just 3. 1 multiplied by 2 is 2. Add 3. No, this should be 5. Sorry. My mental math is poor. Okay, so we're good. That's probably why it's a good idea to write these things down. So 1 times 2 is 2, plus 3 is 5. Okay, and then 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11. All right, so we have these new points here. All right, so I'm going to plot them, and I'm going to do -1, 11, which is way up here. Okay, I'm going to do 0, 5, which is here. I'm going to do 1, 3. I'm going to do 2, 5, and then I'm going to do 3, 11. Okay, and this is my new parabola. All right, so it's a little bit skinnier, and it's been shifted up over 1 and then up 3. So pretty straightforward. This one requires a lot of practice, so make sure you guys doing your homework and the recordings, and we'll see you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.